Hello class, in today's session we are going to talk about functions. So what are functions? That is the first question that would be crossing your mind. So function is a set of Python statements which is performing a specific task. So what's the difference? Right now also I've been writing down one single code which is performing a specific task. Is it a function? No, it is not a function. Now, how do I redefine it? So now try to understand. This is the Python code that you have written, which is asking you to input two marks. So these statements are asking you to input marks in two subjects. Thereafter, next few statements are doing the calculation. They calculate the total and they calculate the average marks. And last, we use print statement to display the marks. So now, when I divide these statements, this entire code into one module, that is one part that will be known as what? Input function. The next few statements would be grouped together to be known as what? Calculate or average function. And the last unit would be known to print the statements. That is to print the marks and the average. So now what we are doing is we are dividing our code into three different blocks. And these blocks are known as what? The functions. Wait. What is this? After so much of difficulty, I have learned how to write these lines and do a task. Now, you are telling me that we should be further dividing these into sub-parts which will be known as function. Why will I do it? Why should I do it? It is doing the task. Why should I be doing this? And that is, why should I divide the program into further small units? Now try to understand my simple basic question. You have your computer book. If I tell you, I give you two options. Option number one is that I take a test of entire syllabus. Option number two is I take test unit-wise. That is one chapter in one go. Which option will you pick? Will you prefer to give the test for the entire book, or will you prefer to give the test for unit-wise? Obviously, it would be what? Unit-wise. Why unit-wise? Because it is simple. Now the same concept lies for the function also. Your entire syllabus is what? This entire code. The entire code that you have written. But if you divide your entire code into smaller units, that is chapters, then it would be easier for you to understand, comprehend, and give test. So that is why also we are dividing this entire block of Python code into small individual units called as functions. Now, try to understand it further. If you are not able to understand a particular topic, say for example, you are not able to understand the topic of list, what will you do? Will you read the entire book? No, you will not read the entire book. You will just read that particular chapter which is related or which is telling you all about list. So why are we not reading the entire book? Why we are reading only one small unit? We are not reading entire book because I have my doubts only in smaller unit known as what? List. So I will be reading only the chapter which is concerned with the list, not the entire book. So why I'm telling you this over here is, one of the advantage of dividing your code into smaller unit is, one, you will be able to understand what is required. That is, it is easy to write down the code. Secondly, if you are having a problem, that is, say for example, your output is not coming properly. So what we will do, we are going to check only the function where we have printed the output. We know exactly, instead of reading the entire code, I'm reading what? Only one part that is related with the printing of the answer. There could be a mistake. If mistake is not there, we know for sure, then it is the mistake in the calculate part. So I am not reading the entire code. I'm just focusing on part of a code which might cause an error. So for me, it becomes easier to find the error and correct the code. Say for example, my evaluation process for calculating average marks changes. So what we have to do is, we have to only make changes in the calculate function where the calculation is being done. We don't have to make changes in the entire code. It is only one part of the code that will be changing. Again, one little doubt that would be arising in your mind. What difference does it make at this level? Bacha, I'm not preparing you for class 12th. Once you step out of class 12th, you will be going in real world where you will be part of a team which is making a project. So consider if a bigger team is making a project and only one person is making a particular or has made one mistake. The entire team program is not running. Why? Because of the mistake made by one particular person or one particular function. So, dividing the entire code into small individual units called function makes life much more simpler. It is easy to learn one unit rather than entire book. It is easy to read, reread, and understand a particular chapter. That is, I can make an updation in a particular function directly going over there rather than making changes in the entire code. It would be easy for me to find out an error in the particular part of a code rather than wasting my time in comprehending or reading through the entire code itself. Let's try to understand it using another approach. I have given students a project, and that particular project is to be completed by a set of 4 students. There could be 2 approaches. Approach number 1 is student A, B, C, and D who have to make one project, individually make a project, and thereafter they decide that whosoever has made the best project, they submit it. Approach number 2 is student A collect the information, student B update the information or refine the information, or we can say process the information. Student C is related with the graphics of the presentation, and D student is supposed to do the presentation. That is, he has to get the project ready. May it be a hard copy or may it be a soft copy of the project. It is his responsibility. Which set of students or which approach will you go in with? Approach 1 or approach 2? Obviously, approach 2. There, because here we have divided the entire work into small individual unit. So this is what is happening through functions also. The entire difficult task is divided into small individual tasks so that it is easy to understand, and this process is known as divide and conquer. Thereafter, now try to understand. If I find that for the particular topic, the presentation has to be given, the project topic, some new information has been coming in. So which student will I call? Obviously, I'm going to call student A. I'm not going to disturb B, C, and D because it is not their responsibility. So I can call student A because some new information has come in. I can call student A n number of times. If I find that some information is missing in the project, again, who I will be calling? Again, I will be calling which student? Student A only. If I find that we need more pictorial representation in my project, so which student I will be calling? Will I be calling A, B, C, or D? Yes, obviously I'll be calling student C because he is responsible for graphical representation of the project. Again, I can call this student as many times as I want. He cannot say, "Ma'am, आप ही मुझे बस बार बार बुला रहे हो. आप मुझे क्यों बार बार बुला रहे हो?" Because, listen, it is your responsibility for the graphical representation of the project. So, आप ही आएंगे, स्टूडेंट सी ही आएगा, ए, बी और डी नहीं आएंगे. अगर मुझे सॉफ्ट कॉपी चाहिए, इफ आई वॉन्ट अ सॉफ्ट कॉपी ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट, आई विल बी कॉलिंग द स्टूडेंट डी. आपने मुझे प्रोजेक्ट दे दिया, आई वॉन्ट हार्ड कॉपी पे कुछ थोड़ा सा फैंसी वर्क हो जाए, मुझे जो है पेपर वर्क जो है पेपर मुझे पसंद नहीं आ रहा है. यू हैव पुट अ ब्राइट रेड पेपर ऑन द cover as a cover. I want some other color. Say I want it a blue color. I will be calling student D because he is responsible for the binding process and the presentation of the project. So what I want to make you understand is I can up till now was able to write the entire code. But when we step out in a real life, the volume of the code is going to be enormous. So if I divide that code into small individual units, that is known as function, the task will be easier for me. Obviously, making project on your own and dividing the project topic wise, it is much more simpler. Second, I told you that I can call student A n number of times. I can reuse the same code again and again and again. I need not be rewriting the code again. Say for example, I have written a code to check for a prime number. So I have to write that code only once. I can check 10 also for being a prime. I can check 7 also for being prime, 34 also being prime using only one single code. I need not be writing code again and again to check for each and every number. How it will be done? This is what we have to learn. Thirdly, the code will be compact because it is what? It is particularly performing a specific task, so it will become what? Smaller. Rather than writing this big code, I'm writing only small code. When you are writing small code, you exactly know where the problem lies. Say for example, अगर मुझे लगता है आपके प्रोजेक्ट में ग्राफिक्स ठीक नहीं है, so who will I call? Obviously, directly I know I have to call student C. If there is a wrong information, who will I call? I will be calling A because he is responsible for collecting information. So I can clearly pinpoint an area where the problem lies. So it is easy to update, it is easy to find the error in the code. So this is what we require function. So to sum it up, what is a function? It is what? Group of Python statement performing a specific task. Now we will be looking at different types of functions that are available in Python. The first type is the inbuilt function, then is the modules, and thereafter the third one is the user-defined functions. Now let's first talk about the inbuilt functions that are present in Python. The very first inbuilt function is related with type conversion. It converts int function, converts it to integer, str to string, float to float data type. This all we have already seen and discussed. Input function is related with taking the input from the keyboard. Again, we have been using this function. Eval function also we have been using. Max function finds the maximum value from a given tuple list. Minimum is going to find the minimum value from a tuple or list or a given set of sequence. So all these functions we have been using. Type functions return the data type of the specified parameter over here. So type 10. 10 is what it will give you. It belongs to integer format. Double quotes ABC type, it belongs to string format. Type 7.94 gives you float format. True is what? Boolean format. So this is all is there for the type function. Len function, using this we can find the length or count of characters in a string or count of elements in a list or a tuple. We have been doing all these functions, so I'm not discussing it in length. I have explained it in brief over here that these are part of inbuilt function. They are what? They are made by the people who have created Java language. So these are coming as a part of the Python only. Now, the next one comes a round function. Round function has two parameters. The first parameter is the number, and the second parameter is the place value till which we want to round it off. So, round off till which value we want to do, that P will be defining. Now, N is compulsory, P is optional. That is, even if I do not write P, it is not going to round off. So, how does rounding off happens? In maths, if 0.5 and above changes to the next number, otherwise it remains as it is. So if I have over here round 125.7, answer generated would be 126. Why 126? Because 7 is greater than 5. Had it been 125.2, answer generated would be 125. Now this round command, either I would be putting inside a print statement, or I have to write a variable equal to the round command and then I print the variable. Thereafter, second version. If in this version, if you observe, I have not given any value for P. So over here, I'm not getting any decimal answer. But if I write over here round 125.7, 0, I have given one parameter. So here answer would be 126.0. If I say over here round 125.2, 0, so it is just going to give me one decimal place. So again, this answer would be 125.0. Now, what if I increase the value of P? What will happen in this scenario? So if I write over here round 125.72, 2. Now it is going to round off till 2. Instead of 2, I'm writing over here, just to make you understand, I'm writing over here 1. So what it will do is, it will give me answer till one decimal place, but it will check for the value at the second decimal place. So over here, since this is 2, this 7 remains unchanged. So answer would be 125.7. But if I write over here round 125.79, comma 1. So this 0.7 will be changed to 0.8. So answer would be 125.8 and 9 will remain as it is. Now, what if I change this value of P to a negative number? What does that mean? Round. If I write over here 125.7, comma minus 1. Now when I say minus 1, it is going to change the value that is written over here, but it will check for the value 5. And thereafter, if this is 5 and above, this value 2 will be changed to the next value. So the answer would be, since 5, this is minus 1, it is greater than 5 and above. So 2 changes to what? 3, and rest all values changes to 0. So answer would be what? 130. Now if I say over here round 1725.713, comma minus 2. So what is minus 2? Minus 1, minus 2. Minus 2 is 2. This is below 5. So this 7 will remain as it is. So answer would be 17. Rest all values will change to what? 0. So it would be 1700. Coming up to the next one, this is a very interesting one. ABS function, it converts, you have to simply remember, it converts a negative number to what? A positive number. So what if a number is already a positive number? It will remain positive only. So if I write over here ABS 63, answer would be what? 63. If I write ABS minus 63, answer would be positive 63. If I'm going to write ABS 7.2, answer would be 7.2. If I write ABS minus 7.2, the number would only be converted to positive number. It will become positive 7.2. Thereafter is the range function, which we have discussed in depth. In for loop, we have used range. In list, we discussed about the range function. So I am not talking about the range function over here. The next one is known as the module. So what are modules? If you could recall, we have done string functions. We have done string functions like upper, lower, is alpha. Now all these functions are written by the people who have created Java. And they have written all these functions. They have been grouped in a class called str. And this class str is forming a string module. So what are modules? Now try to understand. Modules are nothing but a group of functions, variables, which are predefined in nature and they are stored as one single unit. Why do we write it? Because at any point of time, if I want to use this function, I need not be giving each and every Python statement to do that particular process. So what we do is we create these predefined things and we use it as in when required in the code. So again, module is a file containing function in a separate file, and these files together are known as what? Library. The extension of a module file is .py. We will be creating our own py file. So now the question arises. Once we have created a module, that is, we have written a code which can be used at any point in the program, how do I use it? To use it, we have the keyword import. This is a very important keyword. Import is a keyword which allows me to use the modules that are pre-existing in Python. This keyword can be used in two formats. The first format is I just write import and the name of the module. MNA stands for what? Module name. Or it's just between you and me, I'm not writing it again and again. So it is what? Module name. So import and module name. So if I write over here import math, I can use math as an inbuilt module which is existing, and it contains many mathematical functions like POW, SQRT, seal, floor, which we will be discussing right now. Not only we can include one module, we can include multiple modules. The statement would be import math, another module is time, another module is OS. So in one go, I have included more than one module in my code. And whatever functions or whatever things that are written inside these modules can be now used by me when I'm writing my code. The next way of using the import is I can write from, I will be writing the module name and I say import. And when I put asterisk, it means I can import everything from that particular module. So for example, if I say from math, import asterisk. So all the functions that are present in math library for finding out square root, power, seal, floor, everything will be available. Now, not only this, if I want only one specific function to be available to me, I have to write from math, I write import, and here I write SQRT, meaning I can use only SQRT function from the math module. If I want to use any other function other than SQRT, it is not allowed. Not only one function, at times it might be a requirement that I want to use, say, 2 or 3 functions. So in that scenario, I write from math, import, pow, SQRT. So in this scenario, I am able to use more than one function from math library. If I want to, again, reminding you, if I want to use all function, I put asterisk sign. If I write name of only one function, I can use only this particular function of math library. If I write the name of more than one function, I can use more than one function in my code. Let's now try to understand more about the math module. The first thing that you must remember, before using any of these functions, you have to write import math. If you don't give this statement, you will be not be able to execute any of these functions. The very first function is ceil and the other function is floor. Let's talk about these two functions. It is written ceil returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to x and floor returns the largest integer less than or equal to x. Now this is the definition part, a book language. Let's try to understand in a much more simpler way. Ceiling is up, floor is down. So ceiling is going to return a higher value and floor being down is going to return a smaller value. So what does that mean? Now simply try to understand. Now before both these functions you have to use what? Math dot ceil x and you have to write math dot floor x. Now try to understand. If the value of x is say 3.9, okay? Now if I make a number line, 3.9 is going to lie between 3 and 4. Higher value is 4, 4 is high value and 3 is what? Low value. So ceil being up gives the high value, that is 4.0. Floor being down gives a value of 3.0. Now, it has no way, that is the decimal value 0.5 or above, it is no consideration for that. So if I have say 46.1, so even if 46.1, it is lying between the value 46 and 47. Ceil higher value is yes, 47. It is going to return me an answer of 47.0. Floor down, lower value going to return me a value of 46.0. Now what if I'm not giving a value in points? I just enter a simple number as 12. The value of x is only 12. In that scenario, both ceil and floor are going to return that integer value itself. No changes would be done. The next function is calculating the power. So again, how do I use it? I write over here math dot POW. X is my base, Y is my power. So X is what? It is base and Y is exponent. Now, if I say math.pow 10,3, answer would be what? 1000.0. So answer is always 1000.0. So it always returns what type of answer? A floating point number. But x and y have to be what? Numeric expression. Now when I write math.pow 10, minus 2, what will happen? 10 raised to power minus 2 means 1 divided by 10 raised to power 2, which is equal to 1 upon 100 equal to 0.01. So directly I will be getting this answer, but for your understanding, I'm writing this. Then what if I put a power as 0? So math.pow 10, 0. Answer in this scenario would be 1.0 because anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. Thereafter, talking about FABS, this function converts a negative number to a positive number. So when I write math.FABS, and here I am writing minus 63. So answer would be what? Positive 63.0. Now this particular function always return a float value even if the argument is integer. what does this mean? So if I write math.fabs and here I write minus 7.63, answer would be positive 7.63. So it simply converts a negative number into a positive number. Irrespective of the values inside, it is always going to return a floating point number. The next one comes the SQRT. It returns the square root of a number. Again, if I write math.sqrt, if I'm writing 16 over here, answer would be what? 4.0. Now, I cannot find a square root of a negative number. This is a rule in math. So if I write a negative number over here, this is going to cause a runtime error, which is known as what? The value error. Thereafter, log 10x, it is simply going to find the logarithmic value of x. So if I write math.log 1000, it is going to return me an answer of 2.0. There are few trigonometric functions, cos x, sin x, tan x. There, cos x is going to return the cosine value of x, sine value of x, tan x, returning the tangent value of x. But here, what you should remember is x is angle in radians and not in degree. So this is important for you to understand that whatever angles here, the value of x is in radians and not in degrees. Then we have simple function. Mat.pi is going to return what? The pi value. Mat.e is going to return the exponential value. Now what if when I'm working on the machine and suddenly I am clueless about a mathematical function? So we have a very important help function where you just put in the function name and it will give you the purpose of the function and how it is to be used. So if I write over here math.help and here I write the name of the function as SQRT, it is going to give me the details that SQRT is a function which returns square root of a number and how it is being calculated. So the purpose of this function and its usage would be known to us by using the help function. Let's now talk about the random module of Python. Now this random module helps us to generate random numbers. Now these random numbers can be used in wide places. The first of all, it can be used to fill a list or a sequence with random values or picking up random numbers from a list or a sequence. Then it can help us to figure out a code for guessing games, generating password, generating OTPs. So in a dice game or a card shuffling game also, these random module can be used. Now, this module mainly we will be talking about three functions: randrange, random, and randint. So the very first function that we talk about is the randrange function. Now, before we begin, we must remember to use random module, we have to give the keyword import random. Otherwise, you will not be able to use these functions. So the randrange function, the first syntax is randrange and we provide a stop value. So what does that mean? So we have to write over here random dot randrange and if I say 60. By default, if I'm giving only one value, it will generate a random number in a range 0 to 59. So by default, starting value is 0, ending value is always range minus 1. Thereafter, we have the next syntax, random dot randrange. Now here I'm providing a start value. Say the start value is 7 and the stop value is 15. So start value is included, stop value is not included. So it will generate any random number between 7 to 14. Now, if I give a start value, stop value, and a step value. So I say random randrange. I write over here 10, say 163, 5. It is going to generate values in multiple of 5 starting from 10 and ending at 164. So it can generate any random value, but it would be a multiple of 5 because we have given a step value of 5. Now, whenever we are using this, either I use print command or I write variable name A, B, or C. When the variables, we can store the random number that is being generated. One point that you must remember, it is going to generate integer values. It generates what type of values? Integer values. It generates integer values. Now, the next function is random. Now, this random function is not containing any parameter, and it generates any random number between 0 to 1, where 0 is included and 1 is not included. Secondly, it generates always a float value that we must remember. So if I write m equal to random dot random empty bracket, it is going to generate any random value between 0.0 till 1.0, where 1.0 will not be included. Now, if I want to generate a random value between two values, say a higher value and a low value, between a range of high and low. So what do? I have a special formula over here, say k equal to random dot random multiplied by high minus low plus the lower limit. Now, if I have to generate any random number, generate random number between 10, 15. So the formula would be, say, p equal to random empty bracket multiplied by. Now, higher value is 15, lower value is 10. So it would be 15 minus 10, which will generate what? A value of 5 plus lower limit is what? 10. So this is going to generate any random number between 10 and 15. So you have to remember this particular formula to generate a random number between two given values over here. Then lastly comes the randint function. Now this randint function, it generates again what? Integer values between A and B. Between A and B, where both values are included. Both values are included. And this is very good function for developing or writing a guessing game in Python. So over here, how do I use it? I use it is I write random dot. Random is the name of the module. I say rand int, and here I give 5, 10. So this is going to generate any random number starting from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where 5 and 10 both are included. So this is a very unique feature for this rand int function. If you have observed, everywhere the upper limit is always upper limit -1. But this is the only function where I'm including both the values. So if I want to generate any random number between 1 and 100, both values included, I will simply write random dot rand int 1, 100. So this is going to generate any random number between 1 and 100, both values included. Answer again has to be either printed or we can store it in a variable. Again, point to remember, important, you have to use import random to use any of these 3 functions. So that is all for today's session. I will see you in the next session. Until then, bye-bye.